around the world. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be talking to you about premium Gurguit deck. It's probably not a deck you've seen around a lot. Most gold paladin decks in the premium format are Ezel based. That's understandable. Ezel's been getting all the support, and it is a very strong deck when it goes the way you want it to. But I built Gurguit in the G era. I thought it was a really good, really fun deck that could hit really hard. Unfortunately, it was just overshadowed by other things at the time, which is really unfortunate for it. I messed around a bit and built a premium version, which I enjoy. I hope you guys enjoy it too, and we're going to dive right in and get into the profile. For a starter, we play Knight of Early Dawn Coel. He's the best starter that Unite Gold Paladins have, basically, for the G era. Unite was the funky keyword. Its skill, it has the Forerunner skill, as pretty much all old starters did. And its second skill is Unite, which, for those of you who don't know, Unite skills are active when you've called 2 or more regards that turn. So they don't have to be on the board and then you call 2. It's once you call 2, all Unite skills go off, even if you call them afterwards and that sort of thing. So its skill is GB1 Unite. Put this unit into the soul, look at the top 3 cards from the top of your deck, search for up to 1 card from among them, call it to regard, shuffle your deck, and that unit gets 2k until the end of turn. So it's a good starter, it's pretty easy to call 2, whether it's from a deck or from a hand. You call 2, chuck this into the soul, and then you start comboing and calling more stuff. So it's a good starter for especially the Gurguit and Unite decks. Speaking of Gurguit, run 4 copies of the man himself, Golden Holy Sword Gurguit. He's the second iteration of the knight himself. His first skill is a continuous GB2. His Unite is all of your regards get intercept and continuous regard during the battle that your Vanguard was attacked. It can intercept from the back row. So if you chuck down 2 units, then for the rest of your defensive turn, you can intercept with any unit on the board, which is awesome. So, his non-stride skill is very defensive. His stride bonus skill is Auto Vanguard Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1. When your G unit strides, you may pay the cost. If you do, you look at the top 4 cards from the top of your deck, call one of them to regard, shuffle your deck, and if the unit called has the Unite ability, which a few of the cards in here do, then you can call the top card to regard as rest. So if you call a unit with Unite and you call the second unit, this skill alone gets your Unite active for the whole turn, which is very nice. He's definitely the better of the 2 Gurguits, and if you're going to build a Gurguit deck, you want this one at 4. So, definite 4 of if you're building Gurguit. Second up, I run 4 copies of Great Silverwolf Garmor from the V era. So, he's got the XL because it's Gold Paladins. I really like this card. It's probably not the best card, Most people would probably just go for Ezel because Ezel, but I just enjoy him. And I think he works really well as a backup if you're not on Gurguit, and a good option because he still gets stuff going. So his first skill is Continuous Vanguard. If your hand has 1 or less cards, all of your regards cannot be attacked and cannot be retired by your opponent's card abilities. That skill doesn't matter. Essentially, if you have no cards in your hand, you're probably going to lose anyway because you can't defend anything. The second skill, however, is Auto Vanguard. When placed, you can Counterblast 1, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, call up to one of them, call one from among them to regard, and put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order, and 6 of your units get 3,000 until the end of turn. So, you ride him, you Counterblast, top 3 call 1, and if you only have him and 1 other unit, then him and that unit gets 3k, but if you've got a whole board, then 6 of your units get 3k. So when it says and 6 of your units, it's as many units get 3k up until you've hit 6 different units. So he's good because he calls something which can potentially start a bit of a chain. He's a decent backup to Gurguit if you chose to go him, because the Excel Circle's good and he calls something as well. So good to have. I think 4 of him is a nice backup for this deck. Now into grade 2s, around 4 copies of Knight of Sunny Day Salonius. His Unite skill is a continuous one. If you're on Rearguard and you have a grade 4 Vanguard with Gurguit and its card name, all of your units get plus 2000 power. So that's every single unit on the board. That's him, your Vanguard, all the other Rearguards, every single one. It's great. And his next skill is Auto Rearguard. At the beginning of the guard step that your Vanguard with Gurguit and its card name is attacked, you may put this card into your soul. If you do, call 2 cards from the top of your deck to guard circle. So again, it's another of the sort of the Gurguit specialty where it has a nice skill that can, buff the deck, but it also has a defensive skill which can help out if you're in trouble. So if you're really in a tight spot, you can just, chuck that into the soul, 2 units to add to the guard circle from the top of the deck, which again, would activate Unite, which, procs off Gurguit's intercept skills. So it's really nice. It's quite amazing what 2k to every unit can do, pushing this to 11, giving 4k to columns, that sort of thing. So 3's nice. You can play 4 if you want, but in a premium build with the extra options, 3s are still a really good number. Next, one of my favourite grade 2s. Fam Girl. What's up, fam? This card doesn't have Unite, it's just a very simple promo card. GB1, when this unit is placed on Rearguard from your deck, look at the top 3 cards from the top of your deck, search for up to 1 card from among them, call it to Rearguard, and shuffle your deck. That's free. That's it, that's free. It's so good. If you happen to call that off the Gurguit skill, what's really good about it is, because it's basically a free call, you call this, call something else, and then Unite's active and you don't have a rest unit on the board. But also it means Gurguit's skill wasn't really wasted because you still got the 2 units out, which is really nice. And again, he chains really well with different combos. If you can use certain cards to call other cards and get things going, it's really good to have. It's a really good one. Would not play it at less than 3. It is too good not to. Next, are in 3 copies of Lob Ear Shooter. I quite like this card. His skill is from hand, if so it's an in-hand skill. At the end of the battle that your grade 2 or greater Vanguard attacked, counterblast 1, call this card to Rearguard and it gets 5k until the end of turn. So, it's not the most, in-deck sort of call, chain, boom sort of thing, but with some of the things this deck can do and the amount of power this deck can reach, this thing is so cool. Because if it actually opens up the range of what you can do by, using your Vanguard skill, say attacking, calling something from deck, and then using this to call this to an alternate Rearguard, and that way you've got multiple avenues going up again, and it is so good. I love having this at 3. I've often thought of it at 4, but I like having more options, so I think 3 is really nice. And then finally for grade 2s, are on 2 copies of Night of Daylight Canarius. Its Unite abilities, if you have a Vanguard with Gurguit and its card name, it gets 4k, so it's a 13k by itself on Unite. And its second skill is Auto GB1. Choose a card from your hand to discard it. When this unit is placed on Rearguard, you may pay the cost. If you do, look at up to 3 cards from the top. Look at 3 cards from the top of your deck. Call a card from among them to Rearguard, and put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. So again, it's I like playing this one because you do have to discard a card from hand, but the point is you're not using Counterblast or Soul Blast, which can be a little bit of an issue in this deck, just a little bit. But I like running it at 2. It's a 13k, and it's a different. It uses a different resource to keep chains going, so you know it's not everything's costing you to get stuff. On to grade 1s, plays 3 Night of Morning Light, Horta. Its skill is a GB1 Unite. When your other unit is placed on rearguard, choose one of your other units in the same column as this unit, and that unit and this unit get 2k until the end of turn. So that's when Unite is activated. Every single time you call a unit for the rest of the turn, he gets 2k, and whatever card might be in front of him also gets 2k. Where this can be really funny and quite hilarious is if you use this right, you can put this in the back row, call something forward, you know, buff, swing with this, replace this, buff again, and you still have a really strong booster for the second unit you've called into that column. So it's, you know, you can do some funky things with this, and it's can hit really big numbers on some turns. So I really like playing it at 3. I think it's good fun. Next are on 4 copies of Listener of Truth, Dindrain. I believe she's a staple in standard decks, I think. I'd have to find someone else for that. Skill is when placed by your card's ability. So in this deck, for example, when called from the deck, Soul Blast 1 and draw a card, or countercharge 1 and this unit gets 3k. That's really nice because it actually gives you an option of what you need at the time. Granted, it would be really just nicer if it was Soul Blast 1, draw and countercharge. You know, that would be broken. But yeah, so if you're falling a little short on hand and you want that extra defense, you know, you draw. But if your damage zone, you've only got 1, maybe 2 cards up in the damage zone and you need more, you can do that too. And then just have a 10k booster. So 3 is good. I've considered playing 4. I might change it to 4 in the future, but at the moment 3 seems to hit a nice balance for me. Next are on 2 copies, just the 2, of Gareth. Again, he definitely a staple in Ezel decks, and I can understand you need him as part of the combo. So skill is auto regard when placed by your card's ability, counterblast 1, and this unit gets 10,000 power until the end of turn. So, you know, if that goes off, you have an 18k booster, plus whatever buffs you might give it, or it's really good for calling to an Excel circle, because it's not a weak grade 1, it's a strong grade 1 there, and, you know, so it's good to have it too. I think the counterblast cost, and with other things you want to do in the deck, playing more than 2 doesn't really suit me. But you can definitely get away with, say, playing a 3rd one, if you like. If that's something that appeals to you. Next, I run 2 Strad Fodders. I do run 8 grade 3s, so I don't really feel like more than 2 of these is necessary. And if you do decide, if you have Garmor in hand, that you want to be on Gurguit instead of Garmor, you can correct. But otherwise, everyone knows what a Strad Fodder does. Pitch it as a grade 3, go into Strad, you know. So then, for my perfect guards and rounding off my grade 1s, I run 2 copies of Holy Mage Lavinia and 2 copies of Holy Mage Alessia? Yeah. So, I like having the both of them because it's just kind of entertaining to have varying skills. And that's the big thing for me. If it's fun, I'll play it. Sorry, I just need to check both. Lavinia's skill is Unite. Choose one of your other rearguards, put it on the bottom of your deck. When this unit is placed on rearguard from your deck, you may pay the cost. If you do, at the end of turn, return this to your hand. So this is good because if you have to call it from the deck, you can put it back into your hand, put another unit back in if you want to call it later. So it's a bit helpful like that. And Alicia's skill is... what's this one again? Yeah, when this unit is placed in guard circle, you can put one of your rear guards onto the bottom of your deck and it gets 15k shield. So having both options is good. If you need to guard something but you don't really have the cards in hand to, or you can't really afford to perfect guard, but you just need that, like, say 10-15k shield, you can chuck this down, put a card back into the deck, get some power, and again, if you have to call this unit from the deck, you can return it to hand. So having both is pretty good. I couldn't really decide which one I wanted 4 of, so I thought 2-2 was really good. And, you know, it's fun. Onto the trigger lineup. 4 copies of Player of the Holy Chord Theodora. Yeah. Every clan got this in the 2019 Premium Booster. When your Vanguard attacks, put it into the soul, draw a card, give you Vanguard 10k. Basically, it's a name crit, except it's clan-wide, so those of you who know what the name crits are knows what this does. So yeah, just 4 of those. 4 of the new Flame of Victories. Just for lols. 2 Dante goals because, you know, why not? It's a bit of fun. Then I run 2 copies of Player of the Holy Pipe, Jerry. It's a Unite skill. He gets 3,000. So if it's Unite in GB1, he gets 3,000 power, making him a 7k booster. And at the end of the battle that this unit attacked or boosted, you can put this unit into the soul and countercharge 1. So this is just another little resource card. You don't use too much soul in this deck, so you don't need really more than this. And, you know, having another countercharger is nice, because you do want to countercharge if you can. And then finally, I run 2 copies of the Tara clone, Shaggy Rabbit, and 2 copies of Elixir Summon, yeah. I really messed up the pronunciation, my apologies. But yeah, so a 2-2 ratio, it's pretty common in premium decks to run 2 of each, because that way you can still potentially get this off twice, and then you have 2 20k shields. So yeah, I think that's a pretty decent lineup for that. Onto the G Zone, I play 1 copy of Sunrise Ray Radiant Sword Gurguit. This is the Gurguit that this deck will probably never go into. I haven't had to go into it yet. He's mainly there as a G-Zone topper because he looks really pretty, if I'm being honest. But for those of you who are unaware, his skill it's a GB2 skill, Unite, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 2. This unit gets 5k for each of your rear guards, and choose up to 5 of your rear guards and they get 5k. So if you do go into this, it's because you've exhausted all your other options, you're right at the end of the game, and you're just going for as much power as you can get. So he's a good card, but with what Gurguit got later in the game, you don't use it that much. So yeah, just the 1. Next, 4 copies of Master Swordsman of First Light Gurguit Helios. So he's got 2 skills. The first one is a continuous once per turn Unite skill. You can flip a copy of himself face up and you get drive +1. So his second skill, which is really good, is just double check the wording on it. Generation Break 3. This unit gets 5,000 power for each of your rear guards, which in this deck you can hit slightly higher numbers because of Garmor if you ride into that. And your opponent cannot call grade 1 or greater cards from his or her hand to guard circle during the battle that this unit attacked. So if this unit gets going the way you want it to, especially, you know, you've got a quad drive, he's sitting at, you know, 50 to 60k depending on how many rear guards you've got. If you're on, so if you're on him, if you're on Gurguit, then he can get, you know, 51k. If you're on Garmor, you can push that for higher numbers because you've also got the Excel, and he has the guard restrict, with quad drive. So he's a really strong card. He's pretty good as a first strat as well, just getting that 4 checks, getting cards in hand to set up for later, and getting a couple Gurguits face up. And why? Because you play 4 of this guy. This guy is your main win con. This is the guy that you want to sit on to win the game. His skills, he's got 1 skill. It's a decent sized skill. It's act once per turn. Otherwise it'd be kind of stupid if you could proc it multiple times. Counterblast 1. Flip a copy of himself face up and discard a card from your hand. Oh, sorry. Until the end of the turn, this unit gets Auto Vanguard Unite. When this unit attacks, look at 7 cards from the top of your deck, call a card from among them to rearguard and shuffle your deck, and Continuous Vanguard. All of your units get 2k for each face-up Gurguit in your G-Zone. Like, wow. So, with, there's the grade 2 in there that gives 2k to everything. This unit gives 2k to everything, himself included. And the reason you stride Helios first is because you have 2 of those, 1 of those, and this, which means the first time you're using him, every single unit on your board will be getting 6k, and the next time, every unit on your board is getting 10k. It's ridiculous how strong the columns can get, how awesome it can get. The whole deck is basically based around this combo, because I think this is probably the reason I built this deck. The rest of the deck was fun and it'd be good without it, but this just makes it amazing, that much better. I cannot state enough just how awesome it is to sit on this card, attack with like 2 or 3 columns. If you've got an Excel going, that's a 3rd column. Swing with this, call a unit, use that. If you hit the right unit, call another card, use Lop here to enter the next column, and just have multi-attacking being awesome. It's so much fun. And this is a definite 4 of, without a doubt. I cannot sing that card's praises enough. Next I play one of these, Golden Dragon, Spear X Dragon. I do not play it for the ability to stride early. That's just pointless in this deck. It really is. And it's a waste of resources. So, if you're not sure what that skill is, Act, G-Zone, Unite. If your Vanguard is grade 3, Counterblast 2, discard a card from your hand, and stride this card on your Vanguard from face down. So, it allows you to stride before you can stride. It's primarily used in the Ezel deck because you can hit this stupid ass combo where you can get 2 or 3 Excel circles, then hit this guy. Then use his second skill, which is Act Vanguard once per turn. Soul Blast 1, turn a card from your G-Zone face up. Look at 5 cards from the top of your deck. Call 2 cards from among them to rearguard and shuffle your deck. So that's... The second skill is why I have one of this. I don't go into it often, but it's there if I'm in a pickle. I can just Soul Blast 1, grab a couple units out and, try and get something going. But, having the top 5 to search from is pretty good. But, yeah, I don't go into him often. He's mainly there as just an option. And I play 2 copies of Golden Dragon, Glorious Reigning Dragon. He really is a good dragon. Very nice dragon. Okay, his skill's a bit long. Just give me a sec. So his skill is Auto Vanguard Unite. Counterblast 1. Flip a copy of himself face up. Choose 2 of your rearguards and put them on the bottom of the deck in any order. When this unit attacks, you may pay the cost. If you do, look at 7 cards from the top of your deck. Search for up to the same number of cards from among them as the number of face-up cards in your G-Zone. Call them to separate rearguard. Shuffle your deck. And if you called 3 or more units, counter charge 1 and soul charge 1. So again, like Spearex, you don't go into this very often. He's mainly there as an option. Later in the game, if you're in a really sort of, a desperate spot, you don't have Gurguit available, or Gurguit for some reason is not an option you can go into. Weird, I know. I don't really see how that would be the case, but you can go into him. What he does get for you if you decide to go into him is he cycles a couple units back in, he refills your board, he nets you a couple of resources, essentially making his skill free. So when you use him, he's pretty good. However, with the other Gurguit strides and whatnot you have available, he's rarely used, unfortunately. But yeah, so he is really good to have. Unfortunately, he's just not used that often with the other strides in the G zone. On to G Guardians. I own 2 copies of Sacred Heaven Prayer Master Rhea. She's a generic 20k shield, just there as a thing. It's when this unit's placed in guard circle, if you have 2 or more rear guards, this unit gets 5k. Simple enough. Unless you're playing a deck that can shut down the board, then you're going to get this most of the time. The whole shut down the board thing was why this deck never really reached the heights that I feel like it could have in other circumstances. Because at the time that this deck was hit its peak, you're dealing with, Overlord was taking people out, Chaos Breaker was a thing, hell, even on a lower tier, Narukami was still floating around a little, which could, deal with it, and there was just enough countering this deck to prevent it from getting to a higher state. Then, 2 copies of my favourite G Guardian, Golden Beast Slay Me Flare. So his skill is, choose one of your other rear guards and put it onto the bottom of your deck. When this unit is placed on guard circle, you may pay the cost. If you do, look at 5 cards from the top of your deck, choose up to 2 cards with different grades from among them, call them to guard circle, and then shuffle your deck. Why this G Guard is so good is because often what happens is you check the top 5 cards of the deck, and you might end up with, say, a 15k shield trigger and a 10k grade 1. So you just added 25k shield on top of its own 15k shield. So it does have the ability to do that, which is just hilarious, I think. That is part of the reason I play him, because he regularly hits as a 30k shield or higher in this deck. And, putting a unit back into the deck just helps. So yeah, 2 of, it's the best G Guardian Gold Paladins have access to. Wouldn't play less than 2. So that's the G Zone and the main deck. Before we finish up, again, because this deck does have Excel in it, you might wonder, what Excel do I use? Well, Excel 1's good because, that extra 5k, but given how much power this deck generates when you want to, use your guys and push for game and stuff and multi-attacking and whatnot, having Axel 2 just to get that extra card in hand if you want to have that extra bit of defensive play or just a bit more things to call from your hand and stuff is really good, because granted it's 5k less power every turn, but you're giving the cards enough power anyway that you don't need Axel 1 to make the deck work. So yeah, Axel 2. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I really do. I know that I really enjoy this deck. It's so much fun. I really, really enjoyed it when in its G-era form as well, which I will rebuild and post on the channel soon. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed my version of Premium Gurguit. It was a lot of fun to make, it's a lot of fun to play, and it was, a lot of fun to bring you guys. So I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.